There comes a moment in a man's life when silence stops being a reaction and becomes a rebirth. Not a pause, not a tactic, not a plea for attention, but a declaration, a moment where you stop asking to be seen and start seeing yourself. A moment where you stop begging to be understood and begin understanding your own worth. A moment where you stop trying to hold on to someone and start holding on to your peace. And brother, that moment changes everything. Because when she realizes your silence wasn't a reaction, it was your awakening, she will feel it in places she can't hide from. You didn't become silent overnight. No man does. It starts slowly, quietly, in the places nobody sees. You over-explained, you overgave, you overloyed. You poured and poured until nothing was left in you except confusion and exhaustion. You tolerated inconsistency, you tolerated mixed signals, you tolerated the weight she placed on your chest, because you thought love demanded carrying it. But there's a truth men learn too late. What you do out of love becomes your burden when it's not returned. And she knew it. She felt your willingness. She depended on it. She built comfort around it. She believed you'd always show up, always respond, always chase, always explain, always forgive what she didn't respect. Your pain wasn't just heartbreak. It was humiliation. It was being treated as optional by someone you prioritized. It was trying to fix what she kept breaking. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But when a man is drowning emotionally, he forgets he even has a mind left. You tried to understand her. You tried to hold on. You tried to keep the connection alive while she played with its pulse. Your pain wasn't weakness. It was loyalty placed in the wrong hands. But every storm has a purpose, and yours was preparing you for the shift she never saw coming. Pain doesn't enter a man's life loudly. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't strike like thunder. It seeps in quietly, slowly, softly, like water slipping under a locked door. It starts with small things, the unanswered messages, the half-hearted replies, the delayed responses, the sudden coldness you try to rationalize. And because you care, because you're loyal, because you're trying to hold on to something real, you give the benefit of the doubt again, and again, and again, until doubt becomes your daily meal, and you swallow it without question. You didn't become silent overnight. No man does. It happens gradually, in the invisible places inside you where disappointment gathers like dust. You over-explained, trying to show her your heart. You overgave, trying to prove your intentions. You overloved, trying to fill the spaces she kept empty. You poured and poured until the cup you were trying to fill began to feel like a hole in the ground, and you watched your own energy drain without a single drop returning to you. That exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. It was mental. It was emotional depletion disguised as commitment. You tolerated inconsistency because you believed it was temporary. You tolerated mixed signals because you hoped she'd eventually choose clarity. You tolerated confusion because you didn't want to lose the connection. You tolerated the weight she placed on your chest because you thought love required carrying it, no matter how heavy it became. You didn't see it then, but love wasn't the thing pushing you forward. Fear was. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of being forgotten. There's a day every man remembers, not the day she left, not the day she lied, not the day she acted like you didn't matter, but the day something inside you clicked. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's not angry. It's a whisper inside your soul saying, I deserve better than this. It's the moment you understand that love without respect is slavery, that attention without consistency is manipulation, that affection without reliability is chaos. It's when you realize you've been fighting for someone who wasn't fighting for you. It's when you stop asking, why doesn't she see my worth? And start asking, why did I ignore my own? Seneca wrote, a man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary. And brother, you suffered far more than you should have because you held on longer than she deserved. Your realization wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of self-respect. And that is when your silence began. Not as a reaction, but as a choice. Realization doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like dawn, slow, quiet, soft, but unstoppable. One morning you wake up and something feels different, not everything, just a single thread in your mind, pulled loose. It's subtle. You can't explain it yet. You don't have the words, but the weight on your chest feels lighter just a little, just enough to notice. And for the first time in a long time, you don't reach F. Don't reach for your phone the moment you open your eyes, not out of discipline, but because you forgot. And that tiny moment of forgetting is the beginning of remembering yourself. Your realization doesn't come all at once. It comes in moments, scattered across your days like sparks that slowly ignite a fire inside you. It happens when she replies dry after you poured your heart into a message. It happens when she gives you half effort after you gave your whole soul. It happens when you notice her interest depends more on convenience than care. It happens when you realize you've been carrying a connection she barely holds with 2 fingers. You don't explode. You don't yell. You don't confront. You simply begin to see. You start noticing what you used to justify. You start acknowledging what you used to excuse. You start understanding what you used to ignore. And little by little, your heart begins to align with your mind. That alignment feels foreign at first, strange, uncomfortable, because for the longest time, your heart was loud and your logic was silent. But now, your logic awakens, your clarity returns. Your inner voice, the one you abandoned in the name of love, begins to speak again. And this time, you're ready to listen. One day, without warning, you stop asking certain questions. Why is she distant? What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? And you start asking the real ones, why am I trying to prove my worth? Why am I the only one trying? Why am I holding on to someone who's letting go? The moment you shift from chasing love to examining your own value, that is the moment your rebirth begins. It's not bitterness, it's awakening. It's the rising of a deeper self-respect you didn't even know you possessed because you buried it under effort, under hope, under fear. Realization is not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. Realization is quiet confidence creeping back into your bones. It's the subtle understanding that you deserve reciprocity. Not resistance. You begin to notice the conversations where you were present, but she was absent. The moments you reached out and she reached away. The times you showed up and she postponed, delayed, excused, redirected. You seem to replay the past, not to suffer, but to understand, to see what you were blind to learn, to grow. Seneca once wrote, "A man is as miserable as he thinks he is." And brother, you start realizing you were miserable because you thought her validation was the doorway to your peace. You start realizing that you placed your emotional oxygen in the hands of someone who didn't even know how to breathe with you. You begin to accept that you romanticized potential, not reality, that you projected tenderness onto someone who didn't offer it. You realize that love does not live where effort is one-sided, that loyalty does not thrive where inconsistency reigns, that connection cannot grow in a place where only one person is watering it. But the most painful realization is also the one that frees you. She was not losing you, you were losing yourself. And that is when something breaks. But for the first time, it breaks in your favor. The illusion shatters, the spell dissolves, the fog clears, and you finally see the gap between how you treated her and how she treated you. Not with resentment, not with revenge, not with anger, with acceptance. Pure, quiet acceptance. Realization is also the moment when patterns reveal themselves. You recognize the cycles. The warm moments followed by cold ones. The attention followed by withdrawal. The compliments followed by distance. The affection followed by confusion. You realize she didn't want a relationship. She wanted reassurance. She wanted to feel wanted, not to build something real. She wanted attention, not accountability. She wanted the security of knowing you'd always be there, without offering the security of knowing she would too. And as these truths surface, your attachment begins to loosen. Your emotional grip weakens, not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. You stop fantasizing about what it could be and start acknowledging what it is. And that honesty, as painful as it is, becomes your liberation. Here's something nobody tells men. Realization is the beginning of detachment. It's not when you leave physically, it's when you leave emotionally. Quietly, gradually, invisibly. You still talk to her, but you don't chase. You still reply, but you don't wait on your phone. You still care, but you no longer crumble. Your value starts becoming visible to the only person who truly needed to see it. You. This shift is subtle, but powerful. You begin pulling back your energy. You begin taking back your time. You begin reclaiming your focus. You begin restoring your peace. And without announcing it, without declaring it, without explaining it, you begin to let go. You begin to let go of what hurts, of what drains you, of what confuses you, of what belittles you, of what doesn't choose you. This is realization, the moment when your heart finally catches up to your mind. And in that sacred alignment, you stop trying to be enough for someone who barely tried at all. Realization is the mental shift that prepares you for the next stage. The stage she never expects and the one that changes everything. Detachment is not abandoning someone, it is returning to yourself. It is the moment when your heart and your logic finally shake hands. You stop checking your phone. You stop rushing to reply. You stop justifying her behavior. You stop replaying the arguments in your mind. You stop hoping she will change. You begin eating better, sleeping better, thinking clearer, moving differently. You stop reacting and start observing. Her coldness doesn't hurt the same anymore. Her silence doesn't scare you. Her distance doesn't control you. Her mood swings don't dictate your day because something powerful is happening. You're finally seeing her behavior without your attachment distorting it. Epictetus wrote, "When someone is properly grounded, they cease to look for approval." And that's exactly what's happening to you. Your detachment isn't spite. It isn't revenge. It isn't an attempt to make her chase you. It's simply a man returning to his throne, a man reclaiming his center, a man remembering who he was before emotional chaos weakened him. Detachment is the bridge between your past self and your reborn self. And she feels it. Even if you haven't said a word, detachment doesn't happen in a single moment. It's not a switch. It's not a decision you wake up and make. Detachment is a quiet evolution, a slow rewiring of your soul after you've been stretched thin for far too long. It begins in silence, in the corners of your mind where you finally start to feel tired. Not tired of love, but tired of carrying the whole burden alone. At first, detachment feels like a betrayal. Like you're abandoning her. Like you're giving up. Like you're letting everything fall apart. But you soon realize you're not abandoning her. You're returning to yourself. You're not giving up. You're letting go. You're not letting it fall apart. You're finally allowing what was already broken to reveal itself. And that realization changes everything. Detachment starts with small shifts. Subtle ones she doesn't notice at first. You reply a little slower, not to play games, but because your mind is no longer obsessed with her every message. You stop over-explaining, not out of anger, but because you realize people who care don't need essays to understand you. You stop asking the same questions, hoping she'll suddenly answer differently. You stop carrying the conversations she only shows up to when convenient. You stop trying to fix the vibe every time she brings chaos. Your soul is quietly pulling away long before your words ever do. This is the beginning of detachment, when your heart finally decides it's done bleeding for situations that refuse to heal. There comes a moment when you listen to your body more than your emotions. Your chest feels lighter when you don't reach out. Your mind feels clearer when you're not waiting on her replies. Your spirit feels calmer when you stop trying to decode her moods. You begin to understand that peace is not a luxury. It's your responsibility, and anything or anyone that constantly disturbs your peace becomes too expensive for your soul to afford. So you start withdrawing, not to punish her, but to protect the parts of you she kept taking for granted, and she feels it. She may not admit it, she may not say a word, but she feels the shift. Because women always feel the moment a man stops needing them and starts needing himself. Detachment is when you start to see things clearly. Not through hope, not through potential, not through fear, but through truth. You notice how little she gives, how inconsistent she is, how her actions never match her words, how her effort only appears when she feels you slipping away. You begin to recognize patterns you once ignored. You see how she becomes affectionate when she's bored, but distant when she has options. How she becomes sweet when she needs validation, but cold when you need support. How she reaches out just enough to keep you close, but never enough to build something real. These realizations don't make you angry anymore. They make you done. Calmly, quietly, undeniably done. This is detachment, the death of illusion, and then something extraordinary happens. Your desire begins to shift. You no longer crave her affection. You crave your self-respect. You no longer chase her validation. You chase your purpose. You no longer beg for clarity. You create your own. Your life starts to expand as your attention returns home. Back into your body, your goals, your mind, your mission. You start taking. You start taking care of yourself first, not last. You start protecting your energy, not wasting it. You start moving with intention, not insecurity. You start investing in yourself. not in someone who treats your heart like a temporary distraction. This is detachment, the quiet rise of a man returning to his throne. And as you detach, you discover a deeper truth. You were never afraid of losing her. You are afraid of losing yourself. And now that you're choosing yourself again, the fear dissolves. The anxiety fades. The tension leaves your body. Your mind becomes clear. Your emotions become steady. Your soul becomes grounded. You move differently. You walk differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about you more than you care about keeping someone who made you feel hard to love. Epictetus once wrote, "No person is free who is not master of himself." And this is what detachment gives you: self-mastery, self-command, self-respect, the ability to walk away from anything that costs your peace. Detachment is not cold. It is controlled. It is centered. It is balanced. It's the moment your emotions stop steering the wheel and your wisdom takes over. You're not bitter. You're not vengeful. You're not broken. You're just done explaining your worth to someone who couldn't recognize it. This is where your silence begins to grow roots, not silence from anger, silence from alignment, not silence from pain, silence from clarity, not silence from insecurity, silence from evolution. And once a man reaches that level of detachment, there's no reversing it, no manipulating it, no guilt-tripping it, no controlling it. This is the detachment that becomes the foundation of the silence, that becomes the catalyst for the rebirth, that becomes the transformation she never expected. This is where everything changes. Your silence is not empty. Your silence is full of boundaries, full of dignity, full of clarity, full of self-command. Your silence is not punishment. Your silence is presence. Your presence with yourself. You stop decoding her mixed signals. You stop accepting breadcrumbs of affection. You stop reacting to her emotional games. You stop explaining yourself to someone who listens selectively. Your silence becomes the loudest thing she has ever heard, because women are intuitive, deeply intuitive. They feel it when your silence is pain, but they also feel it when your silence is power. And that second type of silence terrifies them. Why? Because silence from a man who has finally seen his worth is a silence she cannot control. Suddenly, she replays every conversation. She reconsiders every dismissal. She analyzes every moment you carried what she dropped. She starts remembering the version of you she took for granted, the patient you, the consistent you, the available you. But that man is gone, and she knows it. She realizes your silence wasn't reactive. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't manipulative. It was your rebirth. And that's the moment she loses the grip she thought she had on your heart. The man she can no longer reach. This is the beginning of your transformation. You start waking up with purpose again. You start focusing on your mission, your growth, your peace. You start building discipline like armor. You start pouring into the parts of yourself you abandoned to keep her comfortable. Your silence becomes sacred. You read more. You lift more. You meditate more. You grind more. You level up more. You become intentional, deliberate, calm, sharp. And this is where she feels the real shift. You are no longer the man waiting to be chosen. You are the man choosing himself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently think." And your mind is becoming unrecognizable, stronger, clearer, colder, wiser. This is your rebirth, the moment you stop seeing yourself through her uncertainty and start seeing yourself through your own capability. Women always expect you to return to the place they left you, but when you evolve, she goes searching for a man who no longer exists. That reality hits her harder than any silence ever could, because she realizes your silence didn't come from weakness, it came from growth. And now, she can't reach you anymore. Ascension isn't loud, it's steady, controlled, unshakable. You no longer react to emotional chaos. You no longer move from insecurity. You no longer chase what drains you. You no longer fear losing what isn't aligned with you. You become a man of presence, a man of discipline, a man of mission, a man of silence. And that silence becomes your signature. Because now you don't need validation. You don't need reassurance. You don't need her to understand. You understand yourself. This is the final shift she feels. You didn't lose her. You outgrew her. And once a man outgrows a woman emotionally, spiritually, mentally, there is no going back. Your silence wasn't a reaction. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a tactic. It was your rebirth, your return to your center, your return to your purpose, your return to the man you were meant to be. And brother, this is your ascension. If this message spoke to your soul, if it awakened something inside you, if it reminded you of your worth, comment below. My silence is my rebirth. Like, subscribe, and join the Stoic army so you never walk this journey alone. Stay disciplined, stay detached, stay dangerous in your peace.